Hi, Avani. How are you today? Hope you're well. So I'm bombarding you with video lessons this week, it seems. But why don't we just pick up and work on something we didn't get a chance to work on in the last lesson. Let me just make sure that I reposition this a bit so you could see the keyboard. I think that's a bit better. Okay, good. Let's look at the tarantella, just to see how that was going. And where is the tarantella? Tarantella, tarantella, tarantella. It's interesting how a song about getting a dance, really, that's to do with tarantulas and being bitten and how to deal with that, gets translated into a form of music, right? Because a tarantella, Burgmüller, trust me, is one of many, many, many composers who wrote tarantellas. Tarantella became a real form of writing that many composers employed. So it always has certain things in common, which is 6/8 time, that pulse, or 3/4 time, but 6/8 is a more danceable kind of rhythm. So that is one thing, and always it has this kind of a little bit of a hyper excited quality about it. It's happy and it's joyful, but it's not really joyful, actually. I mean, there's nothing joyful about being bitten by tarantula, is it? But it's got that sort of very, very impetuous, impulsive, intense character and quality about it. So you have to get into the mood and emotion of this piece from the start. So when it says allegro vivo, what does that really mean? Well, we know that allegro means pretty fast, right? Vivo means with life. So you can imagine this as really people's lives in a tarantella depended on their heart rates being accelerated, because through sweating they would get rid of this poison that was in their system. So it really has to be fast-paced and intense. So we have to work on really just that driving force behind it, really turbocharge this. We talked about going to those dynamics, right? Going to that sforzando. But how important it is to really color this with a broad range of dynamics. So really start, it says forte, but I don't even know if a forte will do it, because if you start forte, then it's very hard to achieve a sforzando effectively, right? Because nobody hears it as such. They just think you're a little bit louder. So it's better to start soft, and that way the sforzando comes out very strongly in comparison, right? So, oh, I'm sorry. This is almost like woo, you know, like you get this whoosh, you know, sound there. So work on that. It's not easy. I would just take apart the repeated note. Fingering. So that transition is probably the most tricky thing there. So then strong, strong, then a fermata, very important. This was all an introduction. And then here comes the actual dance part. That was just the overture, the very dynamic and dramatic overture, but then we get the sort of more serene tarantella. Okay. In the left hand, it's important to pull out the upper note, the A. Try not to play it not to play it as a block of 4 notes, because then it really, and listen to the difference if I do that. It really is like a concrete slab that you're hoisting on your back. It really pulls you down. The weight of it just doesn't let this music fly. So you really have to instead pull out the top note, the A. How do you do that? Well, luckily the thumb is playing it. So right away we have an advantage because it's a strong finger. So make sure you lead with it. And pull that one all the way down and make the other 2, the ones underneath, soft. So that's how I would like you to practice that passage. Okay, and then this next one. Okay, now this is again very light. You have to go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's how you kind of get it to float. And that's the quality you want there. Down, up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, so that will really make all the difference there. And again, the left hand here needs to be voiced. Okay, so that's that, and until the double bar line, same ideas. Here. You have to really anticipate that sforzando coming as something very special. This has to be very dry, staccato. And the right hand, of course, is leading the way there. So make it very dry by keeping your fingers very rounded, fingertips strong, and play from very close to the point of the key. Don't lift the finger, don't drop down. It's from down to up kind of quality, which at our lesson together, I'll speak to you more about that. So just remind me, just ask, Margaret, what do you mean down to up? Okay, that's the assignment. All right, so tarantella, work on it in a way where you're really working out the shading. And just to quickly touch on one other thing. I can't find the nocturne. I don't know. I've been looking for that book. Where's my nocturne? But the main thing I wanted to say about the nocturne, I don't remember what the notes are to this note, to this piece, but you have to make sure whatever you're playing in the left hand is the driver here. I think it's something. What is it? Something like that. But make sure the left hand. When you play those notes, they're so important to, again, shaping is everything in music, shading, the same way that shading and painting is everything. You need to prepare a canvas before you can just slap paint on it, right? It's never going to be good. The preparation is really more than half the battle many times. So the more you prepare the canvas for painting, the easier time you'll have, and the more the colors will glow. The more iridescence you'll get, the more intensity of color, the more shading, the more gradations. And the same thing with piano playing. It's amazing. We could play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes, but it's so different when you play them in the same shade, which is boring, which doesn't connect, or when you shade them differently. So in that way, what I think about is the lowest note, the bass note, it needs to be like the bed of sound that everything else rests on. So you play it. It should have a pingy kind of sound to it because you're going to lay the rest of the notes on top of them. They shouldn't be too soft, and you should pull out one or two of them. In this case, I pulled out my G's because I wanted to create a nice sort of effect. If I didn't, listen to the difference. It droops. Because 5 notes is too many notes to not have something else going on. If you just pull out the bass note and then you have 4 other notes overlaid on top of it and you don't do anything to them, it's just going to collapse like a bad souffle. You can't have that. So you have to pick out at least 1 or 2 notes along the way, preferably not the last one. The last one should always be subdued. So choose from the other 3 possibilities you have, and you'll be already making a lot more meaningful connections and interpretative decisions that way. Okay, so practice well this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Okay, bye, Avani.